Well, Claude, why don't you start by talking about growing up on a farm in Mars Hill community?
Well, okay, you know where Mars Hill is. Some of them places, I can't call the name of them, but we lived on the Womack's farm, the Keenum's farm, and the West's farm. 3 farms I grew up on. And we walked to Robert's School. Is that the name of it now? Is it Robert's School?
Well, it was Robert's School opened in the 50s, but didn't you go to the Rosenwald School?
Rosenwald.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm gonna tell you, 4 years ago I had a heart attack and I died.
4 years ago?
4 years ago, this June right here. 4 years ago, and I might forget some things, but I'm here. I'm here.
Well, you had an amazing recovery, it looks like.
Sure enough, God did it.
Well, we're grateful for that.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about farm life when you were growing up. What crops did you grow? And
well,
what
my
jobs
daddy
did you
grew
have?
cotton, corn, peanuts, watermelons, and then we had our gardens, which we had some of everything: tomatoes, lettuce, cucumbers, squash. We had hogs, cows, and of course the mules belonged to the farmer. But that's what we
The
had.
mules belong to your father or to the owner?
To the bill.
Right. Uh-huh.
Well, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I call him the farmer, and that way we'll know.
The farmer is the person who owned the
Yeah,
land?
he owned everything.
Mm-hmm.
We were just there living.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your father was sharecropping?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And how did that work? How did the rent work?
The rent,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. My dad never did tell us. We just done the work.
Uh-huh.
But we lived there. I don't know how they, you would September, I believe it would be October, November, the cotton would come in. Mm-hmm. And you would have, sometimes we would have about 6, 7 bales of cotton. See, and that's where the gin was right here. Mm-hmm. No, the gin was on Main Street. The cotton gin was on Main Street where, let's see, what's the name of that street? Where the Acworth floors is, right down here. Uh-huh. That's where the cotton gin was. And when that gin would make the bales, then he'd sell it, and that's when he would get his money. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And during when it wasn't no farming, my dad would make corn liquor. Uh-huh. Yeah, they made it. Mm-hmm. And he would bring it home and big croaker sacks full. You know what a croaker sack? Mm-hmm. You see? He would bring 10, 12 gallons home. That's what they'd give him for helping them. And people would come out and he'd sell it, mm-hmm. by the quarts, pints, and all. And that's how he made our living, uh-huh. until we got old enough to, like I said, from my dad Mars here, we'd walk to school. See, the bridge, you might not be prepared. Semelo Drive, uh-huh. that's the way everything worked then. Uh-huh. Semelo Drive. Uh-huh. It wasn't a little road over there by the, I call it the little dam,
right.
going out Cherokee.
Right.
That wasn't there then.
No, that wasn't there until 1950.
Right. But we walked from Mars Hill to school.
How far was that?
Well, I can't say. But do you know where Mars Hill Church is?
Yes.
Mars Hill.
Mm-hmm.
You know where the Mars Hill Presbyterian,
Yes.
I think it's church.
Right.
From right in that area.
Mhm.
That's where we live, that kind of in that area. If we moved to another farm, it wasn't far.
Right, and you got the Mars Hill Cemetery Road out there, the cemetery.
And we walked from there to school every day.
Well, how long did it take you?
I don't know, but school started at 8 o'clock and we was there.
Now you'd told before about, of course, the schools were segregated, but black and white children would walk together to school.
Oh yeah. Now we had it was some white lived in the area. The people we lived on the farm, they would walk with us. They had a bus. We didn't, but sometimes they were just that kind of people. They would walk with us someday, and someday they ride the bus. I never will forget. I don't know what grade it was, but his name was James Johnson. He died about 4 years ago. His wife worked out in England now. And he had I was supposed to read something that day, and my page was tore out of my book. He had the same book I had, and he let me borrow his book. And that's just the way it was. We go home in the evening, we pick cotton, do what it needed to be done. It was 13 of us, but it was just me. Me, my sister, one brother. It was me and 3 brothers and a sister. We was old enough then to do that. The rest of them would come later on, whatever. But that's the way it was, and like I said, it was a shoe. My daddy would bring them horses, them mules. It was a place right here where they shoed them at. Right here, where all this is.
Where the city hall is
today? It was a place where they shoot, shoot the mules, come get his wagon fixed.
Like a livery stable?
Yeah, all that. See, like I said, I can't remember everything like I could 4 years ago because I had
You're doing pretty well.
I had the heart attack.
Right.
And the farm people, we lived on 3, I think, the Kingdoms, the Wesses, the Warmers, and the Dewberry. Every so often, my daddy would stay there about 3 years, and then he'd go to another farm. And I never will forget, I can't think what year it was, the government, we had cotton everywhere. The government come in, they cut down some cotton, and we couldn't bother. After they,
they cut down the crop that it was already planted?
Yeah, it was planted.
So you had gone beyond your...
Yeah, it must have been gone beyond the, what we supposed to have. And they cut it down, and that cotton would be so pretty. But we couldn't touch it. And let me tell you this, all them farms we lived on, those white people was nice. I never will forget on after we get out of school and on Saturday, we go sweep the yards. Wasn't no grass.
Right.
You had to go get canes. You know what canes is? You make brooms out of it.
Yeah, oh sure.
Yeah, you make brooms out of it. And we would get dogwood bushes. And we would sweep their yard, clean up around there. And what they would pay us, they said, now, we have to give your daddy the money. The lady would make big old biscuits. and give us jelly and biscuit with butter in 'em. And they were good.
Well, I bet.
And they were good.
I bet. Well, now you told once before about you had milk cows too.
Oh, yeah. I milked now, I was the most of the milker when I got big enough because I love to get up early. I still get up. My wife gets on me now. I ain't slept. I retired from Hewlett Packard in 2000. And I ain't slept till 9 o'clock since I retired. I gets up early. And my daddy used to tell us, and my grandmama, she said, milk the cow at 6 o'clock every morning and milk at 6 o'clock in the evening. And say if you do that and don't go bail maybe one morning milking at 8 o'clock and then that evening milking at 5 o'clock. She said if you milk her 6 in the morning, 6 in the evening, she would give more milk. And she did. I had her giving milk.
Okay. All right.
Because I done it right.
Uh-huh. Good. Good.
Let's see.
Well, Miss Johnson,
Yes.
you were telling us a little bit earlier about not being born in Acworth,
Right.
but moving here when you were 8 years
Yes,
old. Why don't
yes.
you came from Cartersville?
No, Marietta.
Oh, you were in Marietta?
Yes,
And then, so you came out here when you were 8 years old?
Yes,
Were you in the city of Marietta or
I was
right
in the
outside?
city of Marietta.
Okay.
Not too many miles from the square in
You know
Marietta.
what street it was?
That was on Griggs Street, I think I got
Griggs?
it right. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You know where the big Marietta Cemetery?
Oh, absolutely.
It was right across down in the.
Right.
Yeah,
And
off on another
yeah.
I
street
live right
there.
across the street from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cemetery.
Right down in there.
It was in
Well,
that area.
yeah, in that
I
area.
know exactly where you're talking about.
Okay.
So you came to Acworth after your parents died?
Yes, yes.
And lived
Mhm.
with your grandmother?
With my grandmother, Lizzie Furr.
Okay, well tell a little bit about your grandmother.
Well, my grandmother was a good lady. She was just a upright, stand-up lady. She believed in treating everybody right. She believed in doing right. And if you do wrong, she didn't mind telling you. She was a church-going lady. She raised my brother and my sister, plus she had another daughter's son that was living with her too because he had lost his mother. And she raised us all, you know, and until we got married and moved away. And later on, she passed away. But she was married to my grandfather. Everybody called him Uncle Bud, but his name was William Cicero Furr, F-U-R-R, yes.
Now, what did they do for a living?
Well, you know what? When I came, like I said, I was 8 years old. He wasn't working, but she was working. She was doing domestic work. And I never did understand why, you know, he wasn't working. But he would be at home, and she would work, and then she'd come home and do housework and cook for us and take care of us. Yes.
Do you remember which family she worked for?
She worked for the Haddaways. George Haddaway, his parents, I can't think of his father's name, but George Haddaway parents. And at that time, the Haddaway, his parents had a grocery store up here on Main Street in Acworth. Yes.
Okay. Now, had you started to school in did you go to Lemon Street Elementary?
Yes, I did. I sure did.
So you went there a couple of years, maybe?
Yes, and then I moved here.
And then went to
Rosenwald. And we didn't know that the name was Rosenwald. We just heard that in later years. Well, we would call it, Acworth Elementary School. That's all we knew. And so we was kind of not shocked, but we was amazing. Well, it was Rosenwald, and we didn't know that was a name all the years, you know.
Sure.
So we found out why it was called Rosenwald
Well, now, how did you
Yes.
distinguish between the Acworth school, uh, that the white students went to, and the Acworth elementary that the black students went through? They both were called the same name?
Yeah.
both-
far as I knew at the
They were
time.
just both Acworth
Yes.
Elementary?
That's all we really knew at the time.
Sure,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, right, I think that it has been a more recent thing to
Yeah,
recognize
yes.
that Julius Rosenwald
Uh-huh.
behind
Yeah.
all this expansion of schools
Exactly.
throughout the South in that period.
Mhm.
Well, why don't you talk? I guess you two met at school or met at church.
Well, I knew him just barely at school,
Uh-huh.
but really, see, my uncle and aunt, they lived on School Street at the time, and they ran and owned a cafe, which sold sandwiches, hot dogs, hamburgers, drinks, and all that. Well, on a Sunday, I normally go, my grandmother would let us go to just for recreation, and she was my aunt running the cafe anyway. So he was there with one of his best friends, Claude. And I got ready to go back home. I had to be back home before the sun go down. That's what my grandmother would always tell me. You better be back before the sun go down. If I wasn't back, I was in bad trouble. So I got ready to walk home, and he wanted to walk me home. So that's how we start talking and whatever. Later on, we got engaged, we got married, had a child right quick, and so we have only one son now. So and that's how. But I knew of him, but we just see him at school and didn't say that much,
Sure. Well,
So
he would have been a grade or two ahead of you.
yeah,
So, okay, so he walked you home.
yeah, he walked me home.
Okay. Well, how old would you have been at that time? Let's see.
Okay,
You were 16 when you got married.
Exactly. Yes, young. I said my child grew up with me, with us. We were young. Yes.
Yeah.
So and we've been married. June the 2nd of this year would be 62 years.
All good.
That's right.
What's that?
August. It was August, not June. I don't know why I said June. Thinking about his
August
birthday.
the 2nd?
The 2nd. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yes.
August 2nd of 1954,
Yes.
and so 62 years
Yes, sir.
this August.
Right.
Well, that's remarkable. I guess
Yeah,
you,
I think
guess you
I think we was meant for each other.
You must not have been too young to get married then.
I don't think so.
They said it wouldn't last.
And in those days, a lot of couples that we grew up with got married young too.
Did they?
Yeah. Few of them stayed together until death did them part. Yes.
Well, tell me about the Acworth School when you were going there.
I like school. Of course, it was segregated too. Of course, and Marietta was segregated.
Sure.
And I like school. Yes.
Well, what did you study, and what was the school like?
Well, I studied, of course, then reading, writing, arithmetic, algebra. When I went, we had to move from Acworth back to Lemon Street when you went to high school.
So you went to Lemon Street High School?
Yeah, I did.
Did you graduate?
I didn't
from there?
graduate though, but I went. No, I didn't.
Let's see, was Mr. Woods the
He was,
Professor Woods?
yes,
the principal?
yes. I can see him now. He been gone for many years. He sure was.
That was one of the
Yes.
first interviews I ever did, was with
Oh,
him back
yeah.
in 1978 or
Very fine
78.
man. Yes.
Did you know Mrs. Woods?
I did. I didn't know her as well as I did him because I would see him just about every day
Right.
at school. But yes, I had met her too. Yes.
Right. Okay, so can you talk about any of the teachers at the Acworth School?
Well, we had one named Mrs. Neely. C.M. Charlie May Neely. She lived in Atlanta, and she would catch the bus from Atlanta up here, and she would walk from at that time we didn't have a bus station, and she would get off there at the traffic light there in town, and she would walk from there to the school.
Oh,
And
where was the traffic light? Was it Dallas Street?
No, it was right
No,
there. Right there
on
where it
Main
is
Street.
now.
Main Street,
Street.
right where it
Yeah.
is now. That was the
Right
only.
where it is now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that was the only light.
No, it was right here in Henry's.
That's right. That's
Where
that's what I
Henry's
mean.
is?
Yeah.
Yes.
That-
That used to be
Yes.
the railroad track used to be a crossing right there
Uh-huh.
where Allen 5 and 10 Sisto,
Uh-huh.
but it's Henry's now. And
Okay.
that's where the red light was, and they moved it up where it is now.
So
That's it.
Henry's is in Allen's 5 and 10?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now.
Henry's is in Allen 5 and 10 Sisto.
And so the crossing, well, that would make more sense because you got to go around that
Yeah.
curve and then
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
across the track. now.
Because the track comes right where Henry's is now. That track went straight across there.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's where the Greyhound bus would stop.
Well,
then?
stop
Yeah.
right there.
And then, well, that wasn't too far a walk.
No, it
No.
wasn't. It wasn't.
She had
Yeah.
to walk over to.
I bet she had to
Yeah,
get up mighty early to get to school.
Yes,
on
to get to
time.
school.
What time did the school day start?
9 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock.
Well,
I
that
think I
wasn't
got
too
it
bad.
right. That wasn't bad.
Well, now, was it was the building divided into 2 rooms? Or
Yes. I think it was only 2 rooms.
Wait,
I
let me
think.
tell me.
Okay.
Have you been to Acworth Community House?
Yes.
That's the way it's built now. That's the way it was at the schoolhouse.
But it was a little bigger because
It was a
they-
little bigger than
Yes.
that. But they had, like you go in there now, where the front door is, it was
It was divided.
It was
into
divided,
rooms.
and it was just
Yes.
only 2 rooms.
I think it was
So
only
there's a
2.
division that went down the
Yes.
middle.
Right, yeah, you're right.
But you didn't have the bathrooms then, did you?
No,
There in
we
the-
had the outside bathroom.
And the school was where Robert's school is?
Yes,
Yes. In that area.
that's where it was.
Okay.
Sure was.
Teachers would do 3 or 4 grades together?
Exactly. Exactly.
They
Might
had
have
the
been in the same classroom then.
Yeah, I guess. It's a funny
they
thing. I
had the
don't
first
remember all that
they
much
had the
about
first,
them then.
second, third, fourth, and fifth
Fifth,
in
sixth.
one room. In the 6th, 7th, 8th.
No, we didn't have 8 then. They cut it out and we had to go to Lemon Street.
Yeah, that's right, because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last grade of high school
Yeah,
was
7,
7th
yeah.
grade back
Yeah,
then.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right, so first 4 in one room and the next 3 in
That's
one room.
right. Sure was.
Okay. So you heard the lessons for the advanced classes that you were going through, I guess, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh,
Sort of. Not really, though.
No, not really.
Not really.
Well, how was the instruction? Did the teacher stand in front of the room and teach, or did you go up and recite, or how did it work?
Sometimes we had to recite, but the majority of the time the teacher she would have a desk and she'd stand behind her desk.
Right in front of the
And
room.
a big black chalkboard, and she'd write and explain different things to us. And sometimes she'd call us up and we'd have to do, maybe like arithmetic or whatever, do our own thing on the board. Yes. Yeah.
So when did the school day end? If you started at 9 and ended at 3?
3. Yeah, it was at 3.
But what did you do about lunch?
Go home for lunch.
Did you?
I did, yeah, because we didn't live too far. I think we had, about 30 minutes. Claude couldn't go, of course. He lived so long. You would have to take your lunch then.
We had to bring our lunch.
Yeah. Take your lunch with you, yeah.
So you take something from the farm, I guess.
Yeah. My mama would fix us a baked potato, a baked sweet potato, and a biscuit with, we had plenty of food. Any kind of meat. Because my daddy would kill 2 to 3 hogs a year. And you know, we had smokehouses. You would put that meat and stuff in the smokehouse, and it'd stay. You didn't have to freeze it or nothing. We had plenty of food. Food wasn't no problem in them days, because we raised our own food. We had pigs, chicken, guineas, ducks, billy goat. You had all kind of food. And you, about this time of the year, things going pretty, meat going bad. My dad would kill a hog, call it a show. He'd be about 115 pounds, and he'd kill it, and he'd be gone about a month.
Really?
We'd be done ate that up. It was a bunch of us. It was 13 of us.
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah. But yeah, we'd bring our own lunch.
Well, now, Mr. Johnson, I know in the last 50 years or so, you go to Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church.
Right.
But that would have been kind of a long way to go from the Mars Hill community. Is that where did you go to church when you were growing up?
We didn't go until we got, I think I was about 14 before I started going to church.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then you started at Zion Hill?
No, Bethel, AME.
Oh, really?
We got a Bethel.
He joined that church
I joined that early
first.
because I wanted to join church, and because we had a preacher here, was a good preacher, and he do Boy Scout, and he said you got to belong to the church. So I went home, told my mom, I said, the preacher said we got to join church. She said, join the Methodist. You can't swim. They're going to put you under that water. And say the Methodist church, all they do is get the water out of a pitcher, sprinkle it on your head. So I joined that, and then when I married, I went to the Zion Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now tell me how it worked. I know they didn't have services every week back then at Bethel, right?
They had them on every Sunday.
No. Every other Sunday.
Yeah, that's right, because both of the churches were splitting. Bethel had the first and third Sunday. Zion Hill had the second and fourth Sunday. Yeah, that's the way
we did that for many years. Sure did.
Yeah, that's the way it
And
was.
we would have night service. And now we don't have night service.
Yeah, they'd have night service, and we'd be out there before it get dark. They'd start about 6. And when it got dark, we was out, gone. Yeah.
Was there a big difference between the services at the Methodist church and the Baptist church?
No. It
Not
wasn't a
much.
big difference.
Not much.
It wasn't a big difference, no. It
So
was similar.
Each church had a minister that had another church as well. Is that the way it worked, that the ministers were going somewhere every week?
Yes,
Sure
sir.
enough.
But they weren't big enough to
Go
for
every
one
Sunday.
church to be full.
Right, yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about any of the ministers that you recall?
Well, now, at Bethel, I was under the Reverend Williams. He was real nice. He the one taught us about Scout. I was there. But I wasn't there about 2 years, and I got married. See, I got married. I was 17 when I got married. And see, I started 14, 15, 16. So I didn't go there long. We didn't go every Sunday, no way. Because we didn't feel like walking. We just go when we felt like getting up walking. But Reverend William was a good preacher. He knew Boy Scout. He taught us a lot about Boy Scout and how to live, treat people, and like that. But then when I got married, we had Reverend Williams.
Yeah, this was another Reverend Williams, my preacher. I joined under him. His name was Percy. Williams. I don't know did he have a middle name, but we always call him Reverend Williams. And he was a good fella. And he stayed with Zion Hill, I was told, about 26, 27 years. Yes.
Well, now you're a mother of the church now, and
I
can
am.
you talk about that a little bit? What do you have to do to be a mother of the church?
Well, first of all,
Gotta be good.
You have to be a good and upright lady. You know, you're in a certain standard then. So, and that means not good, but nobody's good. I say, but God. But you know, they label us as good people, upright people, and you just have to live in a standard way that's pleasing to God, regardless. You know, and I do communion, and I have taught Sunday school. I did that for several years when I was younger, and I was director over a choir when I was younger, sing in the choir. Don't do that anymore, but I still do the communion of the church. And I was raised in church. I would go every Sunday. But my grandmother raised me, and even before my dad died, we went to church. So we know church, you know, and I know what it's all about, and it's very important that, you know, if you can, put God first, because you're going to have your ups and downs, and there's nobody else that you can go to but the Holy Spirit, and that's God, in the name of Jesus. So, and I knew all of that, so, and I live today, the, you know, majority of the best that I can. I'm not perfect, but you know, I do the best that I can, you know, and God knows me, knows my heart. Amen.
Well, when did you stop going to the two churches and have a full-time pastor at Zion Hill?
Let's see, what year was that? Gosh. Let's see, Reverend
Walker started
I believe it was Reverend Walker. What year was that? I wished I had
I
that.
can't tell you what year it was.
It's been a while.
It's been a little
Oh
while.
gosh, yeah, it was.
Yes, it's been a little while. And the church was just growing, so although the church was full back in those days, but I think some of the members just decided just to have church every Sunday at their church. And of course, the Methodist members, they really wanted to stay just like it was. Sunday here, Sunday at their church. But we sprung out that way, and it's okay. Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Johnson, why don't you talk a little bit about your work career? Because I know you worked at Lockheed in the food service for a while. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, okay. And I forget what year it was. I told Lau to get the job. I said I was 18, but I wasn't. But I went to work when I was 15. Here's some white men here in Acworth. I can't call their names now. I wish I'd have got up and got all of that. They helped us to get. He told me to go to Lockheed. I believe it was. I can't.
Was that in 53 that you started?
Yeah, I started.
I think around 53.
Right after you got married, then?
Yeah.
No, you was there.
No, I was working
already
before
there
I was
before we
married.
got married.
Okay.
I went to ARA Food Service. I forget the year.
Oh, wait a minute, you got married in 54. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
you
married in
started there the
54.
year before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I went to
I
work in 53, I think.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of them people. Like I said, and I'll tell this everywhere I go, and I ain't gonna quit telling, cause it's true. These white men back in there was good to her. They were good to her. And he got me that job at ARA Food Service. I can't think of his name. And I worked there 27 years.
27.
Yeah.
And it's called ARE Food Service?
ARA.
At that
Food
time.
Service.
ARA?
ARA, that's what they call it.
Do you know what that stands for?
No. And I worked there that long. I was just a handyman. I done everything down here I never did get up high. Cause see, I didn't, 8th grade before as I went in school. But I guess it was the good Lord. I can make it. I can read. I read my Bible. But 8th grade before as I went. But like I said, I worked at ARA Food Service 27 years. And then a friend of mine got me on that Hewlett Packard. And I worked there 30 years.
Almost 30 years. Wasn't quite 30.
Well, just about 30. But I just
Close
say
to 30. But
Yeah.
yes.
And
So this would be like you're in the 50s and the 60s. You're working at Lockheed,
Right.
ARA Food Service.
yeah,
And what did they contract with ARA to provide the food in the cafeteria? Is that the way it was?
this company just come in there and set up, and they did everything. We would help prepare the food. I got to be a second cook. I started off as a dishwasher and all that, but then I got to be a second cook. And that worked out good.
Right.
But and the thing about this whole thing, we had grown men working those places, and they mostly took care of us young boys. Give us a ride. It was about 6 different men from Carterville working there, and they had their car, and they would pick me up. That's when they built the, not the old 41, but they call that, what they call that over there now?
Cobb Parkway.
Cobb Parkway. That's what they call it. See, I can't think like I used to. But anyway, we walked, and they pick us up right there.
Probably
take
called
us-
it the 4-lane back
That's
then.
exactly
Yeah,
what
that's
they
exactly
call it.
right. Yeah. They call it, and they pick us up, take us to work, charge us $10 a week. We had to pay them $10 a week for our ride. And we were there. In that 27 years I worked there, I missed 12 days.
That's good.
And at Hewlett Packard, I worked there, like I said, just about 30. And I missed, I think it was 24 days there.
Is that right?
Yeah. See, when you a country boy, you didn't do nothing bad. See, my grandmama raised where she was there. I mean, my mom and daddy was always there. But they would come, my grandmama didn't have, she would stay with one of her daughters 1 month, stay with us 1 month. She had two daughters. No, it was 3 of them. And she would be with us 1 month, then the next month. And she mostly raised us. And that wasn't nothing to play with. You didn't do nothing wrong. She was there to tell you whatever you need to do right. And it worked. It stuck with me. She told me some things. She said, if you get in a fight with somebody, and you think you can't whoop them. She said, just, if you can get far enough away from them, she said, run. She said, I'd rather to hear somebody say, there you go, and they lay. And she said, if you can't get away from them, you hit them and run like hell. That's what they would tell you. Yeah. They raised us. I mean, the word, like I said, out there in that country, that was all them people out there, they were white. But she said, treat everybody right. In your day, back in the end, them old people, they used saying, I ain't gonna say it was what it always been, but it was something to listen to. They would say, treat everybody the best way you know how, and God will see you through. See, we used to go to our grandmama, some nice person would die, white or black, whoever. We'd say, well, grandmama, why they so good, why did they die? These are some of the words they would say. God got to have somebody to help him. I don't know whether it was true or not, but that's what I listened to. So, I tell you, it was something. And right here in Acworth, let me tell you this, you ain't got to have my tell you. All these people own these stores. My grandmama and them knew them, and they were white. We could get anything we want. I mean, anything. Yeah. She knew them. And they'd send us to town and to these stores. All this here used to be grocery store. And that's just the way it was. It was good. I'm going to call some name. It was a doctor here named Dr. McCall. He was good. Dr. What's our doctor name now? Still live over there.
Cobble.
Dr. Carver. He was good. You had police named Joe Porter.
Mitch Smith.
We never bothered them. They'd see us coming across, cause they didn't have no cars then. They would walk from that post office up there to down there. They
didn't have as many cars.
They might have had a car, but they always walked.
Yeah.
They go around every evening after the close door. They'd shake the door. And I tell you, it's amazing. Acworth is one of the best cities, I think, in Georgia. You didn't have no this, no that. You would they'd speak to you, treat you nice. That was it. We got a man here now. He runs the Lacey drugstore. I think it's Ben Flanagan. Somebody may tell you about it. He's one of the best men. Acworth is just full of good folk.
How do you think it's changed over the years?
Well, it just grows. But the people are still nice people in Acworth. Our mayor right here, we had good mayors. The mayors then were people grew up, they know the city, they were nice. But when Tommy Allgood come to Acworth, he made it. He just went out. I think he would just say if I grew up in the town, I wasn't gonna go too far. People might not like it. But that Tommy have stressed out and he have built this, him and his
followers,
has built this city. And it's still a good place to live. I ain't going nowhere. I'm 80 now. I ain't going. Where I live now, we've been there 49 years?
50 years.
On Taylor
Close
Street.
to 50 years now.
Well, I was thinking I had 1966, so that would be 50 years something.
Yeah,
exactly.
66. You're right.
And I wanted to ask you about I guess Jerry and Ivy Jones. Were they the ones that built the house?
Jerry Jones.
Exactly.
Could you talk about them?
Well, his daddy come here, I don't know what year. Jerry daddy come here, and they come here, they sell from somewhere. They come here, and his daddy was a home builder. And then he had a brother named Bobby. He was a home builder. And then Jerry. Bobby was going to be on my home because my son played Little League ball with him. And he was just good to him and all. And then he was building another subdivision. But then I asked him, he said, well, I can't get to it now because I'm building Bartow County, and he said Jerry built it, so Jerry built it for us.
And we still in that little home.
We still in
it's
that
home
house.
sweet home.
They know how to be a house.
Yeah.
They built a good house. But like I said, Acworth is just.
I wanted to ask you one more question about the Lockheed and the food service. I've
Okay.
heard stories before where when they integrated a lot of things really quickly about 1961, and I'd heard stories about where they closed down the cafeterias and just started bringing the food out onto the floor and had some electrical connections and pigtails, I think they called them, to connect to the food. Do you remember anything about that?
Not really, because the time I was there, like I said, the cafeteria, we take the food to the cafeteria, because I drove what they call a tug. I'd take it to the, they had, see, Lockheed's a big place,
Yeah.
and they would have canteens set up out there.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was thinking about.
And we would take the food out there on tugs.
Mm-hmm.
It would be we had food carts. All we do, they would be on trays, and we set them. They had places on them canteen about big as this, twice big as this there, and it had a lights on. You just set them trays in them things like that, and mostly they'd have the plates already fixed, and that's the way they did it.
So this would be out on the floor?
Yeah, that was on the floor. But then they had about 6 cafeterias in the building.
Right.
And it would be food that take up there. It would be just like your food you go eat out of the restaurant. Like that.
Yeah. So that didn't change anywhere along the line? It was always that way?
Yeah.
At least it was when you were there, huh?
Yeah, when I was there.
They
I
have
forget what
changed
year I
after.
left there.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they changed or not. But I had 2 jobs in my life. Yalry and Hewlett Packard.
So it must have been about 1970, I guess, that you left there?
Yeah, somewhere along in
30
there.
years,
Yeah.
or roughly
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, it was somewhere along in there.
What did you do at Hewlett Packard?
I done all this down here. See, cause I know I didn't have a good education, so I could have been a computer man. They had all kind of work there, but I was scared to try that. But I stayed down there. I cleaned up. I done all the running. I had my own van. I did everything. And let me tell you this, see, I knew that I wasn't gonna make a big dollar. But we get paid the 1st and the 15th. When I get my check on the 15th, I'd have another just about 30 or 35 hours overtime. See, Hewlett Packard opened the bar every day at 5 o'clock, and it stay open till from 5 to 6. Well, I had to be the one to take care of that. Well, when I get through with that, I had to clean up all that. And I got, instead of making maybe $40 an hour, I was making about 12 or 10. Might not have been that much. But anyway, I got 2 checks a month. It was just about. See, I got the overtime. I was the only man there getting overtime.
Right. Wow.
And they was crazy about me. I done all the, I done all of the ripping and running and everything. Sometimes I'd get home 12 o'clock at night and be there at 8 and 7 in the morning.
Wow. It's a long day.
Yeah, and I made it.
By the way, that reminded me, Miss Johnson, you worked where the old mill is now for a while.
Yes,
didn't
I did.
you? Can you talk about that?
Oh, I love working there. I really did. We would make fabric, taffeties, and all that. for upholsteries and stuff like that. Beautiful patterns. And I love working there, but didn't work there very long. Because at that time, a lot of the mills were closing. And they had one in Greenville, South Carolina. And I was offered to go there, but I wasn't intending to move from Acworth to go there to work. Some of the workers worked there did. So, and I worked at Coates and Clark going on 8 years. I worked there when we was making thread then, you know. The yarn for thread, Coates and Clark thread. Yeah. And I did a lot of domestic work too.
Did you?
A lot, yeah. Didn't mind doing it. I loved it, yeah. Met a lot of nice people, sweet people's working for. You know, they own Eaton Department Store. They owned the first one, they call it the little store, then later they built another department store. And I worked for Dave Chevrolet, you know, Levi and Eva Lee, and I worked for them until they died. And the grandson too, Calvin, and his wife. So that's the type of work that I did.
Well, tell me about your son a little bit. He must have, he was involved with the integration of the school.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, it was,
Just open
yeah,
it.
just go through that door and like you're going toward the front door.
Yes, he was. He was involved. He started from, I still call it Robert School, to Autry Middle School. And then he went on to North Cobb High. And he was a pretty good student. He was a good athlete, but he could have made it, but his mind was on girl. So, yeah, so we had the only one, Claude Jr., but we call him Ronnie. Yes.
Call him Ronnie?
Yes.
Okay. Was that his
And the
middle
reason why, no, it's just his nickname.
name? Okay.
The reason why we call him Ronnie, when he started walking, he would just run all the time. So we kept that name. Some people still call him Ronnie, but I named him after his dad.
Now, so he graduated from North Cobb High School.
Not quite. He lacking a few hours,
Oh, did he?
and he didn't go back to get those hours. So he was minus of his diploma. Yes.
So where did he go to work?
He worked at Coates and Clark.
Did he?
He sure did. He worked there before I did, but he was still going to school then. But after that, Ronnie have had maybe 3 or 4 more jobs now for companies, and I cannot tell you exactly the name of them.
Does he still live in Acworth?
Yes, he's married now, so he live here in Acworth. Yes.
Great. Well, I think I'm about out of questions. Unless you have anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so. I was waiting on you to ask.